there, Beer to Whiskiers. I'm Russ Heaps, and welcome to this episode of Big Jon in 5. And I'm here with my good buddy on the left, Big Jon Richards. And this is a very special episode of Big Jon in 5 because it's actually coming to you from my studios here at home studios. It's actually, we're sitting in my dining room.
Don't tell them that.
Well, I know.
Studios
the illusion
sounds way better.
I know, the studio. Normally we come from the Beer to Whiskey Studios high atop Barley's Tap Room in downtown Greenville, South Carolina. But because of the coronavirus lockdown, we're using my home today to do this. And also, because normally I let Big Jon choose things from the 70 taps at Barley's. This time I just took a little stroll through Total Wine yesterday or the day before, I guess, and just picked out some things that looked kind of interesting. So these are actually my picks as opposed to Big Jon, so you can blame me for this. But having said all that, I'm going to still defer to Big Jon to talk about the beers. And John, what do we have here?
Well, Russ is to blame for this one.
I am.
We actually have another one that I am really excited about from Breakside, which has just started coming out our way from Portland, Oregon. And looking at them, and I've known Breakside's been in town for some months, and they have a couple IPAs that I am extraordinarily fond of. Their Wanderlust and their Rainbows and Unicorns are both outstanding IPAs, and their lineup is really it's a great. They're just a quality brew house. This one's brand new to me, and it's salted caramel stout, which already sounds wonderful.
That's what attracted me to it, was the salted caramel.
Oh, and then I can't put it down because it says it's in collaboration with handmade salt and straw ice cream. What?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, of course, we got smooth, rich, and good to the last spoonful on the bottom of the label there. So I'm excited for what's about to come out of this bottle. And a handy tip for those of you at home, we stuck this out on the counter half an hour ago, and that is a wise tactic for you with a dark beer. Take it out of the fridge and give it a half an hour to warm up to, say, 45 degrees or so before you pour it. And you'll get a much, much better experience out of it than pulling it straight out of the fridge and drinking it at 36 or 38. It's just, it doesn't work for a beer like this.
It's like taking a good wine out of the wine cooler and opening it and letting it breathe and letting it come to room temperature sort of thing. So a red wine in any event, at least. But I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. And you made the same point I was going to make. It's true of a lot of, across the board with a lot of beverages and a lot of different foods and whatnot, that you should prevent yourself from hurting yourself on them. As I remember sitting in a pizzeria in Brooklyn where we were the only people in the place, and it made my pizza sit in the window for 5 minutes before they brought it to me because they said it was still too hot.
Well, there you go. There you go.
So just don't hurt yourself on it. Just go with the flow.
And it's the same thing with liquors.
Yep.
Being a bourbon guy that I am, you'll lose about 80% of the flavor in a glass of bourbon if you throw an ice cube in it. Not if you put a little bit of water in it. If you throw an ice cube in it, you're going to lose 75 to 80% of the flavor. So this is kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I think we should give this thing a try and make a thing. Look at this guy.
I defer to you.
Russ has a what is it, a toucan?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's kind of a parrot. It is a vintage bottle opener that someone gave to my dad in 1953, and this thing has moved with me all over the country. I just can't get rid of it.
It's got some writing on the bottom.
And it's just, it says this end down.
I hope it does. I really do.
But I've carried this with me through. Other stuff has gotten lost. Things have, fallen by the wayside. I've kept that with me just because I think it's so cool. But it's vintage bottle opener from at least 1953, if
Yeah.
not older than that.
That's awesome. Welcome to Russ's home studios.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And see
So
how well
my-
it works.
Right.
We're going to demonstrate how well it works.
Am I even allowed to use this?
Yes.
Am I going to be able to figure out how?
Look at
can.
that.
Yeah, it's like it's natural.
I know.
It just happens.
There it is.
You're not going to
folks.
be able to find one of those, but
Yeah.
in case you wanted to be jealous of something, there it is.
And I wish, and it's also it's kind of made me think a couple of times about maybe trying to create a collection of vintage bottle openers, but I have not done that. This is, if I ever do, this will be number one in the collection, the first one, but I have not done that.
Well, on to the beer.
On to the beer, yeah. Enough talking about
Only talk about vintage bottle openers for so long.
yeah, it's,
Ooh, look at the head on that. Look at the head on that. That's a pretty beer.
ooh, that is nice. We are, because we're at my house rather than at Barley's, I'm using pint glasses. We're using pint glasses for my collection. So Big Jon has one there from River Rat, which is down in Columbia, which are sort of friends of ours. And we don't have their video on Beer to Whiskey yet. We were supposed to go a couple of weeks ago and shoot one, and it didn't happen because of the corona, the WuFlu
Well, we're trying to
shutdown.
stay safe here.
We're trying, and we're not actually. It looks like we're sitting right next to each other, but this is
Yeah.
all done with
Tricks of the light.
Yeah, it's tricks of video editing. My glass is from Noda,
No doubt.
and they are from out of
Charlotte, North
Charlotte.
Carolina. Yeah,
Okay.
fast growing brewery up there that's caught a lot of people's attention down here.
Yep.
Making some wonderful stuff. So we're endorsing everybody while we got the chance.
That's right, because you got to kiss as much ass as you can in this business. And nobody's better at it than I am.
Yeah.
So let's.
Salted Caramel Stout. Oh, God. I almost smell coffee and porter on the front of that.
Yeah, I get
That's
more
fun.
of a porter thing out of it than I do. But I guess that's good
Interesting.
because you wouldn't want the
Yeah.
the caramel to overpower.
No, absolutely. And it's 6.7, so it's not a huge stout. We're not talking about a massive knock you on your keister. See, I didn't make a swear word that time.
He's a professional.
Don't tell anybody. There's still a lot of roast in that. That's a good beer.
It is a good beer, but all I'm getting out of it is the coffee and the roast.
Yeah,
I'm searching for the caramel.
It's there, but it's subtle. And it's, this doesn't you come into this like I'm reading the label and I say it's brewed with a collaboration with an ice cream person and it's a salted caramel stout. And I think I'm going to pick this up and get like peanut butter pie out of it or something. And
No, it's just a traditional porter. You didn't tell me this was a salted caramel stout. I would not have begun to guess.
yeah,
that there was,
I would have led.
I'm not getting any of that out of this.
I would have led with porter with this, except that it's bigger than that. Just the kind of the mouth feel of it.
And I guess there's some very subtle caramel on the finish. But again, if I didn't know that, I'm thinking that this is making me think that rather than me really tasting it. But maybe
There's some real sweetness in there, but you have to sit there and take your time with it. This is a really interesting beer. Because the thing that hits you in the face, you're really right, is the roast of the porter. Like
it's a big
bread
traditional-
crust
yeah, it's a big traditional
yeah.
porter.
And it's, living in that 6.5% range, even a single stout's often going to be hard to distinguish from a big porter. And this is neat. I would go back for seconds on this
I would too, but then again, as it sits for a while, it may, maybe perhaps that
Well,
caramel will come out more as it gets a little.
It will,
It's still
and it's
pretty
still-
chilled, even though
yep.
it's been sitting out for
Right.
half an hour.
Now, what you would do normally with your beer is and what we will do after we
After we're off of.
after
you
you
guys
guys
have
aren't
left, yeah.
watching anymore, let this beer warm up over the course of a half an hour while you drink it, and
Right.
it really will open up even further from what it is, because a lot of these beers don't reach their full potential till 55 or 60 degrees, till they're
Yeah.
almost at room temperature.
I'm really thinking that that's going to be the case with this. That
And-
we're going to get a lot more of that caramel influence once.
Typically, with a beer with any kind of malt sweetness, the warmer it gets, the sweeter it's going to taste. So as this thing warms up, I think we're going to get even more of that. But there's a nice interplay all the way through. You know, if you sit here and put it in your nose and take a sip and let it linger and take a nice easy swallow, there's a little bit of that sweetness that hits you in little bursts the whole way through,
Yeah.
which I think is fantastic, versus just a big sweet front end or a big sweet finish. You know, it's a balance of flavors the whole way through. It's so hard these days to find beer that's really properly balanced. So everybody's going for a particular flavor, you know, some special New England IPA or some, you know, creme brulee stout, or, you know, I don't know, hibiscus and orange peel pilsner. You know, putting a good beer in front of somebody is always going to have its place. And this is fantastic.
That's as close as you're going to get to a rant from Big Jon.
Yeah,
that was a
Soapbox moment.
yeah, it was. I was afraid he was going to fall off that high horse, but you're 100% correct.
Yeah.
You're
Thank
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we probably passed our 5 to 11 minute limit.
Yeah. 22 Big Jon and 5 limit.
Yeah.
There is a Big Jon and 5 that is about 27 minutes, where we actually had Josh Beebe, who owns Barley, sitting in with us. And what was the beer? It was a big, dark, it was a big imperial stout of some kind. I forget what it is. But anyway.
I don't remember. I remember the event, but I don't remember the
Yeah.
exact beer
Yeah.
we were drinking.
It was a couple of years ago, and we sat down with Josh and had a big thing, and it was about 27 minutes, I think, if I remember correctly. But anyway,
5 and some change.
yeah, 5, and it's, it should be Big Jon and at least 5 is what it should say. But having said that,
It's a catchy title, Russ.
I know, we're going to move to that.
Cheers.
All right, text Miss Lily. See you next time.